Dear guest speakers, dear viewers, allow me to welcome you to Virtual Tech Summit Volume 4, a conference dedicated to the sustainable mobility of Slovakia. Virtual Tech Summit Volume 4 is brought to you by the Tech Summit events. Joining me today on this first discussion panel are our guests, Karol Martinček, Vice Chairman of the Board and General Manager of the Commercial Section of the Railway Company Slovakia. Dobrý deň, pán Martinček. Miroslav Garaj from the Strategy and Public Relations Section of the Railways of the Slovak Republic. Dobrý deň, pán Garaj. Peter Los from Slovak Ministry of Transportation. Dobrý deň, pán Los.
Dobrý deň, prajem.
Also joining us live is Mr. John Sirot from United Kingdom, the Director of Economics and Global Technology and Lead Transportation Economics at Jacobs. Hello,
Good
Mr.
morning,
Sirot.
Good morning.
Mr. Radek Čech, the General Manager of the International Relations Section of the Railway Management of the Czech Republic. Dobrý deň, pán Čech.
Dobrý den.
Also joining us today will be Mr. Andrew McNaughton, the head of UIC Intercity and High Speed Committee. I believe he will be joining us later today to deliver his presentation on the High Speed 2 project in Britain. Tech Summit Events organizes unique and innovative conferences that have one thing in common, new and modern technologies. Tech Summit Events wouldn't be what it is without its cooperation with the Ministry of Transportation of the Slovak Republic and the support of our key partners. Our main partner, the Slovak Railway Company. Our partners, Tarosi and Railway Company of Slovakia, our supporters, the British Embassy in Slovakia, Integrated Transport Bratislava, Airtime Critical, upcoming. Our production partner is VNet. Thanks to VNet, we can broadcast this discussion thanks to the stable internet. So at first, the topic of today's discussion is called Building an Intelligent Region, Infrastructure of High-Speed Railway in the V4. High-speed railway is the green and economical mode of transport of the future. Mr. Čech, I believe you are the one that can explain to us the best how are we approaching the future, or how are we turning the future to present. So I would like to ask you to provide us with a short presentation of the status of the high-speed railway development in our V4 region.
Okay, this topic is very important for us. In Czech Republic, we prepare maybe a very big ambition project concerning high-speed development in the Czech Republic. It is not possible without support important partners from the other countries. Our main target is about establishment. Next slide. This piece is establishment new line concerning speed more than 200 kilometers per hour. We are discussing about new lines for speed 300 kilometers per hour and about modernization existing line concerning 200 kilometers per hour. Next slide. Thanks. The main goal for us is capacity increasing on our network. We have as the main problem in the Czech Republic that we have not enough capacity on main lines concerning line between Praha and Brno and Praha and Ostrava. It is a result maybe commercial success of railways in the Czech Republic. Now we have a lot of trains between the cities and we have a critical situation concerning capacity for freight, and we have very difficult situation concerning regional transport. We plan to build new lines for passengers operation only, and we will have 3 existing lines for freight and for regional transport. Next slide. The main goals are logic about fast traveling. We respect fulfill target 1 hour between main regional capitals and Prague in the Czech Republic. It will be about very fast connection in 1 hour between Praha and Brno, as well about very good condition for traveling between Praha and Jihlava as a regional capital, and 30 minutes between Praha and Ústí nad Labem region. It is possible to see on this slide. The most important cities in the Czech Republic will be about connection between Praha and these cities about approximately 1 hour. Now we have a situation that only some cities in Prague area has this advantage, and we see very big potential and very significant increase of number of passengers in this region. We have had in last 5 years approximately, with some exception of Corona crisis, we have doubled number of passengers between Praha and cities near Praha. And we have approximately every year increase of passengers, approximately 15 to 20% in commuting from these regions to Praha. It is not only about cities near Praha, but as well about Pardubice and the other. We see very big potential concerning regional development in these areas. It's one of result of cooperation with Mr. McNaughton. We see very significant potential of increase and attractivity of investments in Brno, in Ostrava, and in the north part of Bohemia. It is very important because this region has a lot of problems from cold time, and it is very important. Next slide, please. Also very important is connection between Czech Republic and neighborhood countries. Because the main goal is establishment 1 hour between Praha and Brno. It is logically will be about very significant shortening travel time between Praha and Vienna, and also Praha and Bratislava. Praha-Bratislava will be in target time about approximately 2 hours. It is very interesting from our point of view, and I hope that is very good travel time also for Slovak colleagues. Very significant travel time decreasing will be also between Praha and Žilina, because we will have Praha-Ostrava in 2 hours, and it will be possible to follow Žilina in approximately 2.5 hours for future. It is important for traveling to High Tatra and the other. Next slide, please. Also very important is connection to Germany. We have very good cooperation between DB Netz, because very important part of our project is standard between Ústí nad Labem and Dresden. We hope that we will have in operation the first section after 2025, and the maybe legal basis now is government resolution about establishment rapid service development program in the Czech Republic. Very important for us is connection between new high-speed lines and conventional lines, because a lot of trains will use new high-speed lines only partly, and they will follow on conventional lines with possibility to connect regional capitals to this network. Next slide, please. It is possible to see on this picture main target time for starting of engineering construction works, and also it's possible to see the main travel time as a future targets on this network. Next slide. It is possible to see in detail on this slide. This slide is about maybe the main connection Praha-Brno, because it's connection in the most important cities in the Czech Republic, and also it is the main line in Central Europe between Berlin and Vienna and Bratislava. It's possible to see that target travel time is, as I said, 1 hour between Praha and Brno, but it will be step-by-step approach, and the first will be about decreasing travel time between Praha and Brno less than 2 hours, and we will follow with the middle part of this line, and it will be possible to follow this time that it's possible to see. In green field, it's possible to see existing status of this project. The same about project Praha of Brno-Ostrava with connection to Praha. It's one exception in our project. It's line between Brno-Přerov. It is about modernization for 200 kilometers per hour, and it's about double tracking existing lines. But also we plan in this section for future new line, but it's now subject of feasibility study in this project. Next slide. The same about Praha-Dresden is very important project because tunnel 27 kilometers in the Czech Republic and in V4 countries is maybe a very unique project. We have now under the tender procedure project management of this project, and also we have started with the first stage of pre-project documentation. And it is mostly about territory planning, and we have finished with geologic project in this area. It was very successful project, common with German colleague, and it was very important for future planning of this tunnel. This tunnel, but has a little bit later timetable because big tunnels, it's very difficult construction works. Next slide. We see that we are a small country, the same as Slovakia, but we see that without new capacity and new speed, it will be very difficult to be competitive opposite to Germany, Belgium, Austria, and the other. We see that the travel time between Praha and Brno, 1 hour, is very good for regional development, and we are opposite the idea that we are too small for possibility to have in trains operation in 300 kilometers per hour, because the start and increasing of speed is about some couple of minutes, the same braking, and generally it's not problem for us to operate these trains. It's very similar with Germany. It's possible, for example, to see stop Nuremberg, Ingolstadt. It's very close. It's most closely than Praha and Brno. Next slide, please. But our system, it will be not system for connection between Praha, Berlin, Bratislava only. It's mostly system for regional development and for regional capitals connection to Praha, and also it's about connection between these regional capitals in the Czech Republic. We see maybe most domestic potential of this project than international, but international connection is also very important, and it's possible for us to be for future a part of high-speed system of the European Union. And we see a possibility to be a very important player in this area in the Europe. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Čech. Just two short organizational things. One, that viewers can join us and ask questions via Slido. The Slido tag is hashtag Virtual.techsummit 4. So, dear viewers, you are welcome to ask questions. Also, this discussion will be made available after today's conference on YouTube and as a podcast. I would like to ask our guests if anyone would like to add a short reaction to the presentation of Mr. Čech. If not, Mr. Garaj, Mr. Čech introduced us on how the project of high-speed railways looks like in Czech Republic. How did Slovakia join to the project? This looks like an important opportunity for us since the railways connects the whole Czech Republic and goes further to Germany.
Good morning to Good morning to everyone. So thank you for your question. I would like to say thank you to Mr. Čech for the presentation, where we can see the progress from the start, from the idea and where they are now. I would like to say that the idea to build a new high-speed railway line in Slovakia comes to the history and came from the history. The first idea is from the 1990. It was in the first year of the freedom in Slovakia, where we started the first conception study for connection between Bratislava and Košice with the high-speed line with the speed 250 kilometers per hour. And from that moment for up to now, we prepare and we made another 7 studies and materials, and all the works are still on the paper and on the table. The idea, which is actual and current now, comes from the Hungarian government, where the Prime Minister of Hungary came with the idea to connect the cities, the capitals Budapest and Warsaw with high-speed line, and countries like Slovakia and Czech Republic will be on the line. So this is a big idea for Slovakia as well, because cities like Bratislava, as the Mr. Čech mentioned in the presentation, is the idea is that the Bratislava as a capital is or have to be put on the high-speed line, because this is a big advantage for the future to have a high-speed connection to cities like Budapest, Warsaw, Prague, Vienna, and as well. The question was how it is on Slovakia now. We are on the start, because a lot of meetings has been done during the last 2 years, but what we know in Slovakia now is only crossing boards between between Hungary and Slovakia, and approximately crossing points between Slovakia and Czech Republic. But our colleagues from Hungary and Czech Republic are farther than we are. We are members of the working groups, and we provide the data for the feasibility studies, which are made which are in the progress and in the process in Hungary and Czech Republic. More information I propose will give you my colleagues from the ministry, Mr. Peterlos. But final words. We are on the start. We know that a lot of works has to be done, and it's big idea and a big question for the future if Slovakia needs to have high-speed line or not, because this is the right time for the future. We need to make decision right now.
Mr. Los, I understand that right now the decision is on the side of ministry to take, since you are now responsible for the confirmation of the public procurement of the high-speed line in Slovakia. So what are the next steps that Ministry of Transportation in Slovakia is preparing?
Okay, so maybe first I will compliment my colleague, Mr. Garay, concerning our cooperation with other countries within the working group on V4 high-speed railway project. Compared to other countries, the position of Slovakia is slightly different. As you could understand from presentation of Mr. Čech, all the countries, Czech Republic, Poland and Hungary, partially solve also their intra-national transport
transport problems or transport relations with the high-speed with the high-speed project. Slovakia, because of its position directly on the corridor, is definitely a natural part of the project. However, en route, we only have one city that could be connected to the network, which is Bratislava, and therefore we need to actually wait to finalize the proposals on neighboring countries. However, the position of the ministry is supporting for this project. We proposed several routes that were investigated, let's say, within the very fresh Hungarian decision support study. And as Mr. Garay introduced, we more or less fixed the potential crossing border points between Hungary and Slovakia. The corridor towards Czech Republic is quite straightforward. What we are discussing is maybe really the exact location in the crossing across the Morava March River. For the section between Bratislava and Czech Republic, the corridor is fixed. We have a project for modernization of this line for 200 kilometers per hour. Maybe, unfortunately, the V4 idea came a bit later than we started the procurement, maybe 3 years ago. And now we are in the position that this project is hopefully completed from the preparatory place. So the procurement was completed, and we are ready to support the construction starting from next year, probably.
Thank you. Mr. Martinček, the high-speed railway in Slovakia is, I believe, the second most expensive project on the Slovak railway network in the past years. If Mr. Los is saying that the main goal of the high-speed railway is to connect Czech and Hungarian borders, what would you say the benefits are for Slovakia of this project?
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes.
Okay. Actually, my point of view is slightly different. I see the big potential as in Czech partner, they introduce us the project which is connecting the three main cities and three main different regions, which is currently important for industry. We are just speaking about how to connect to the high speed the Bratislava. Bratislava is not a Slovakia. Bratislava is just a part of Slovakia. So we should come to this point much more ambitious and to say what would be the best for the Slovakia for next 20-30 years for future, because the Slovakia has a best opportunity of geopolitical position. It is connecting north and south and east and west, and we are speaking in the high-speed line to connect only the Bratislava. This is not fair for our future generation of to be such a skeptic, because we are preparing something, some solution for future next generation. So solving today's problems, it's not our position. Our position should be the solving next problem, which will come in 5-10 years. And to waste money to put just make connection between the Brno and Bratislava Budapest is, I would say, not value for those money for Slovakia. Yeah, maybe for Bratislava, yeah, but for Slovakia, sure no. So my point of view is different. I would prefer to make connection directly to the Slovakia. If on the start was said that connection Budapest-Warsaw, why is not going through the Slovakia direct? If it is connections between Bratislava, why we are not speaking to connect to Košice? If we are speaking regarding the connections, why we are not speaking Ostrava, Žilina, Bystrica, and Budapest? So I'm quietly sad of this this state of speaking. Not we are even on the start. We are even quite late to even solving today's problems, because we are going to build the connection between the Kuti and Bratislava for 20 kilometers per hour. As I heard, that would be just only 20 or 30 kilometers from this distance for 200 hours, and the rest of them would be for 160 kilometers. Everybody know that Austria partners are building connection between Bratislava and Vienna for 200 kilometers, and they are going to end on Marchek for 200 kilometers, and from that side we are still not do have any decisions what would be connection for Bratislava. So I think it's still a lot of work ahead of us. But we should keep on mind that we are going to solve mobility of main backbone of mobility for Slovakia, and Slovakia in the middle of Europe. So we have to keep in mind and to be to this issue in this way to think about. That's it.
Thank you. Mr. Garay and Mr. Los, would you like to add your reaction?
Just maybe one add notice, or maybe little question. Maybe colleagues from UK, United Kingdom, or Mr. Czech will also answer this question, because Slovakia is a country which have 5.5 million inhabitants. 5.5 million people lives here, work here. Someone lives in Bratislava, someone lives in Košice, someone lives in Prešov, in Žilina, and so on. And I understand that the mobility is a great things for good mobility is a great things for connection, for working, to travel for work, to travel for maybe visit family, for going for culture and so on. But maybe I would ask you, Radek Čech, or maybe other colleagues, that do agree or not agree with me that question of mobility, which is covered by high-speed lines and the high-speed line operators, is a question about the potential of mobility. The papers thinks that the minimum numbers of people which are living in the one city or small region or one region, it needs to be 1 million and more for high-speed line. What is your experience, other colleagues, or maybe Radek Čech? Because I think that Prague is 1.2 million. Ostrava and Brno, Morava region is also about 1 million. And Slovakia, Bratislava has maybe 500, 600,000 inhabitants every day here. So it's question about the numbers of people which would want and which will use the high-speed lines for everyday traveling or almost every day. So I think that this is the number of potential of mobility, numbers of people.
So, Mr. Čech, would you like to add your reaction?
Thank you. Yes, we have now results of feasibility study between Praha, Ústí nad Labem, and Dresden, and it's partly about some answers concerning questions from Mr. Garay. The economic result of this analysis is approximately 10%, 8.5, as a positive result of this economic evaluation. But it's very important that Prague has very specific position in the Czech Republic. It's very big cities, a big city in this area, and the most potential is about commuting, everyday commuting between northwest region and Praha. I see very important potential in Slovakia online between Břeclav, Bratislava, and Nové Zámky as a very maybe important goal as future line for 200 kilometers per hour, because it is about connection Banská Bystrica, Bratislava, Budapest, and Praha. And from our point of view, Bratislava is from maybe traffic flows, anything as a regional capital in the Czech Republic. It's a very big potential for traveling between Praha, Bratislava, and Brno, Bratislava. The traffic roads are very important. It's a reason that I see very big potential this Slovak project, 200 kilometers per hour online between Břeclav and Nové Zámky, as a very good basis for future development of high-speed rapid service in Slovakia.
Mr. You are a big proponent of high-speed railway or railway transport in general. I liked your points when you compared the railway transport with cars, in that railway transport is stable regarding, for example, the price of the ticket or the traveling time, unlike road transport. But what would you say is as we've touched on the point of feasibility, what would you say is the minimum criteria for feasibility of a high-speed railway?
As I said, we see potential for connection on this line for connection to Germany, as well about everyday commuting. Concerning prices, we plan that high-speed network in the Czech Republic will be normal part of railway network in the Czech Republic. It is very similar strategy as is for example in Belgium or in Austria. It is not difference between price of tickets on high-speed service, for example Westbahn, and different roads or different trains. It will be about a normal price of travel tickets, no more. And without this maybe premise, it's very difficult to fulfill targets of this project. It's logic because high-speed trains are expensive, it's true, but in 1 hour this train will be between Brno and Praha. Now it is about maybe cheaper trains, but it is about 2.5 hours of operation on this train. It is about double of benefits of operation of this train, and we save time and we save money. Now we have maybe the best prices of commercial operators online Praha-Ostrava, and it's a reason that it's about the most effective of use of train sets on this line, opposite, for example, line from Praha to Karlovy Vary, because this train it's not with good speed, good parameters of railway lines, and it's a reason that it's about very high costs and less benefits.
Mr. Sirot, can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Mr. Sirot, I wanted to ask if you can say what's from your point of view, the minimum feasibility of a high-speed railway in the sense that if there is an economical point to build a high-speed railway in this region.
So I think the issue here is, as Mr. Czech was talking about, it's about capacity, and it depends on your existing rail network and the amount of capacity you have on it. So in the UK, we're looking at building a high-speed line, sort of 200 km per hour or more, linking some of the northern cities, so from Liverpool to Manchester to Leeds to Newcastle and Hull. And some of those cities are not particularly large, they're sort of 250,000 population. And the issue that we have on the rail network is that we have long distance trains, we have local commuter services, we have freight trains, and the network is full. And the only way to provide additional capacity is to provide new infrastructure, new lines. And if you're going to put in new lines, then why not make them high-speed lines? And so the cities that are being linked are reasonably sized cities, but they're sort of medium-sized cities, as I say, from sort of population of 250,000 onwards. And the issue is really about economic development. It's driving the economies. It's linking these cities, making a greater economic region, more business-to-business travel between them, a lot of leisure travel between them as well. Less so the sort of daily commuting, but still people traveling to and from work between those cities. So even reasonably sized cities can support a high-speed network, depending obviously on the infrastructure costs that you're having to cope with. You know, in the UK, we've got problems with having to build a lot of the infrastructure through tunnels due to it's going through a hilly part of the country, but also how do you get into the city centres? And again, the issue we have in the UK is the existing rail network is heavily constrained, and therefore using the existing infrastructure into sort of central cities is not that easy. So again, if you're trying to keep costs down, how can you get into your city centres? Can you use your existing rail network to get into your city centres? And that, if you can, then that reduces the cost significantly. So I think, you know, even the relatively small cities we're talking about in Slovakia can potentially support a high-speed network. And the other issue is about the international links, which are very important from an economic perspective. You know, that the free movement of people that we've got in the EU has created huge flows of people, which then leads to increasing business travel between countries, etc. And we're trying to decarbonize our transport network. So again, an integrated international high-speed network helps to move people out of cars and out of the air. So you know, there's certainly lots of potential for high-speed rail within Slovakia and linking into the neighbouring countries as well.
Mr. Sirot, if I may ask one additional question, from my experience from the people in the Western Europe are more likely to take the train either a daily commute or for longer distances. Why would you say is the main motivating factor that people in Western Europe do travel by trains more?
I think there are a number of factors. One is the fact that we have actually very congested cities. So it's actually difficult to drive into many of those cities. So the rail network is the easiest way to commute into large cities. So that is one particular reason. And because the road networks tend to be very congested as well, it can be quite stressful driving. So again, people actually prefer to use the rail network. And in some countries, the rail network is relatively cheap. The UK would argue that it's probably not so much here. But again, from a cost point of view, it's potentially cheaper and easier to use rail rather than to drive to work.
Mr. Sirelt touched on the point of cost of building a high-speed railway or any railway network. But I believe that the part of the high-speed railway connecting the V4 region in Slovakia will be paid by a special European facility. Mr. Los, perhaps you could introduce us to the means of financing the high-speed railway in Slovakia or in our region?
Well, in Slovakia, basically all the infrastructure development is currently supported and financed from the European funds. We have several sources for financing. The standard sources from the for infrastructure development come from the cohesion or European regional development funds. The project between Bratislava and Czech state border is financed from another tool, which is called Connection Europe Facility, with similar conditions. For next years, we will probably have additional resources coming from the new Green Deal and Next Generation programs within European Union. So the sources for financing the infrastructure will probably expand a little. As I said, the project between Bratislava and the Czech Republic is already supported from the Connecting Europe facility, and hopefully it will be really launched next year also for the construction. Maybe I will also go back a little to Mr. Martinček and previous discussion on what is the potential of Slovakia concerning the development of high-speed rail network in other parts, not only in Bratislava. Indeed, we would gladly support all the initiatives, also what Mr. Sirot said, related with decarbonization and providing ecologically friendly alternatives for driving. With this respect, however, Slovakia has two big disadvantages. One is a relatively small amount or volume of population. The other is quite complex and complicated geological conditions and geographical conditions that make, for the moment at least, the potential for making the projects feasible in terms of economic problematic. And going back to the sources of financing, making the project economically viable, that means with economic rate of return above certain threshold, is the basic pre-requirement for getting any funds for construction from the European Union. And this becomes quite difficult, or this is quite difficult in our conditions, and we are struggling quite a lot with all our railway projects here in Slovakia with this.
Mr. Martinček, would you like to respond?
Yeah. I have some figures. Recently, I read some World Bank analysis regarding the high-speed lines, or especially the costs for building the lines till 200 kilometers, or 160 kilometers, 250 kilometers, and 350 kilometers. And according to this analysis, it's some figures. The price cost of building between 160 line and 200 kilometer line, it's about 10%. Between 250 or 250 to 350 is roughly 13-14% higher. And this is comes from the practicing and implementation other countries high speed they build. So now it is question, I'm going to build 200. Why I'm not putting the 10% or 15% higher? I have 350. That's one my point of view. Other point is on Slovakia are moving yearly about 750 million people a year. Is it enough for high speed or for nice train or no? That's a question. And third point of view is this is the way where the high speed is connecting not just only country, but it's connecting the country to the neighbors. Yeah, because I'm not going to build the high speed only for Slovakia. I'm going to build, as Mr. Colleague Sarok said, I'm going to build connection to Europe. Yeah, and regarding against those analyses, it comes to that distances to 600 kilometers, between 600 to 800 kilometers, the train is completely competing against the air. Yeah. So and this is the situation and position to really think what is the value for money for people for next generation. Now we are counting that it's not enough people. It's quite cost is high and so on and so on. We are not going to waste those money. We are going to invest for future to this country. I wanted to say this because it's important to think before we made some kind of strategy. Sorry, but Slovakia doesn't have any strategy of mobility till this time. We do not have how we build the highways, trains, and other kind of mobilities. Yeah, that is point that we are still not in the Europe because we do not have how we connect to Europe. In this mobility, we are still just looking at Slovakia that we are very geomorphological, topographical situation. It's not easy as Hungary, okay, but it's not going much more complicated than Austria or Switzerland. Yeah, so for everything is a good solve. For example, in the Japan, they are happy that they can go through the tunnel because they do not need to buy the ground. They do not spend the ground, and they are happy to go their high-speed train through the tunnels and to make connections and to save money for people, because the moving people and mobility of people are adding their value to the GDP of the country. And GDP, when we spoke with Austria, GDP of mobility just on the railway sector is 4 to 5% to GDP of Austria. How much it is in our country? Does he know the answer for these questions? Thank you.
Mr. Loss, this is maybe a question for you about the economic impacts of transportation in Slovakia.
Well, we understand that transport is as an essential part of the economy and economic development potential. We agree that improvement in mobility can boost the economy and vice versa. Maybe that's also the answer for these ideas that we maybe need to wait a little time until the economic growth will improve the sustainability of projects and their feasibility. So simply we need first to get richer. Maybe also what Mr. Sirot mentioned, that we need to exploit and exhaust all the capacity of the conventional rail infrastructure, and then we can continue with the improvements of the network with the high-speed rail connections or other alternative modes that may appear.
We have a question, I believe it's for you, Mr. Loss, from Slido, from one of our viewers. How do you see mobility in the future? Be realistic and describe the Slovak situation.
Well, my personal guess is that Slovakia is still quite low urbanized country. I think that current trends of depopulation of rural areas will continue and maybe even go faster. And in the end, Slovakia end up with probably two major centers near Bratislava and near Košice, maybe few sub-regional centers around Žilina or Banská Bystrica and other cities, which will probably improve the situation also for connection, for high-speed railway potential. However, I think that for the moment, one of the mobility phenomena is that a lot of people that moved from other parts of Slovakia towards Bratislava, they still commute weekly across Slovakia. That maybe gives the perspective that the capacity of our infrastructure is very low, because every time people commute on Friday afternoons or Sunday afternoons, they see the congestion, the completely full trains, etc. However, this will probably disappear in future, according to my opinion. So when people will start to live in major agglomerations, the need for this weekly commuting will decrease. On the other hand, maybe with growing economic power, they will have the opportunity to travel for longer distances for their free time or leisure purposes. So this can replace the current situation or the current traffic flows within Slovakia. So that's just the broad idea. For more specific, please try to ask. Mobility is very wide area of discussion.
Mr. Siralt, I would like to ask you, as an mobility expert, is the high-speed railway now considered a backbone of the whole mobility, of a sustainable mobility, or are there any other approaches that are in trend right now?
So I think you would see it as a backbone of mobility in many countries in Europe. If we're talking about high speed being sort of 200 kilometers an hour and more, a lot of countries have their intercity rail networks. We're seeing large amount of leisure travel taking place and business to business travel, as I mentioned before. Just picking up on the last point, the patterns may vary across Europe, but what we've seen with the coronavirus situation is a lot of people working from home. There's potentially more potential in the future for people to work from home and not come to cities. So cities are very attractive places, often for younger people. As people have families or as they get older, they tend to prefer more living space, which may not be available within the cities within their price range. And what we've seen with the sort of high-speed rail network and long-distance train services is, just as we heard before, that a large number of people are living in more rural areas and commuting long distances into the city for maybe 3-4 days a week and staying in a city during that time. And you mentioned the sort of depopulation issues that are happening in parts of Slovakia. That obviously drives down property prices. It makes those places more attractive for people to live with families, more space for them, etc. And it'd be interesting to see in the future whether we will see some movement away from cities for families to live in more rural areas, and that will support more long distance commuting. It may be not daily commuting, it may be just coming in, as you said before, on a Sunday evening or a Monday morning, which causes additional pressure for the rail network. But some of these changes that are happening in various countries, are problematic for all transport providers in understanding how transport provision needs to change going forward.
Mr. Martinček, do you see a trend of increasing long-distance commuting, or would you say that this is a decreasing trend?
I would like to confirm the words what Mr. Siralt said. I will say, while my experience in Spain, when I travel from Valencia to Madrid, which is about 450 kilometers distance, and I travel by high speed, and my travel time was from Valencia to Madrid 1 hour 40 minutes. And when I sat at coach and I speak with the guy which sit ahead of me, and we speak about how life is going on and so on and so on. And he said, I'm commuting to Madrid every day from Valencia to Madrid, 450 kilometers. Okay, it took him 1 hour 40, yeah. But he worked on the computer. He said, okay, my employer is know that I'm working and I'm traveling like this. And this is the answer. Either it is long distances. What does it mean, long distances? Long distances in our measurement in Slovakia is maybe, what is the distance? 1 hour and more. And our average speed on our infrastructure nowadays is 67 kilometers per hour. 67 kilometers per hour. So 1 hour means that we are in the region commuting 1 hour, it means 67 kilometers or 70 kilometers to commute to Bratislava. But when you travel 150, 200, you will commute from Banská Bystrica, you will commute from Žilina, you will commute from Lučenec, you will commute from either Budapest or whatever. Yeah, and this is the added value for those people and for next generation. They don't want to work hard in office. Just they want to live, and the life balance. It's very important for them. So this is what I wanted to stress, that the question, what is the long distance and what is the commuting, is very much depending how infrastructure and how me operator can arrange the commuting or to make mobility for those people. So for us is commuting 70 kilometers. In the Spain is commuting 400 kilometers. So this is the mass.
Mr. Garay, what are the coming changes to the commuters or to the railway network that will ease the routes of the customers?
So this is the not question for me. This is the question for Mr. Martincek and his colleagues, because I represent the infrastructure manager. I agree with Martincek that the average speed in Slovakia on the railway network is low. We need to increase this, and but the modernization, optimization, to building high-speed lines, and so on, is question of sources of money. It's needed to say, because the opportunities for financing the railway projects for modernization in Slovakia are limited. It's reality. For example, one figures or two figures. As I mentioned at the beginning of this conference, I told that a lot of studies and concept works was done and are still on the table, because, for example, the financing cost for building the high-speed line with the speed 250 between Bratislava a Petržalka through Nitra, Zvolen, Lučenec, Košice, and the state border between Slovakia and Ukraine. Figures from the 1997, which is recalculated to today's cost, and it's 407 kilometers long distance, new high-speed line, and it cost almost 12 billion euros. As I once again said, 407 kilometers long distance, and the cost is almost 12 billion euros. I understand that if we would have the full capacity on the conventional railway network, that we will have to try to find solutions for answer the question of full capacity of the network, that the new lines may be parallel with the existing network. It will be the answer for the future. But I have to say that all is nowadays questions for money today, and it's also questions for money for the future. Also, a lot of time is consuming by the preparation of the project. We need to money for feasibility studies. A lot of money is needed for project documentation. A lot of money is needed for constructions, for realization of the projects. And as my colleagues from the ministry, Mr. Peterlos said before, the railway project needs to be feasible. So I understand for the future, we have to find the real answers to connect the cities like Košice, Žilina, Bratislava, Banská Bystrica, Zvolen, Lučenec, and so on. But I don't know what will be the answer in the future. But from my point of view is that Slovak railway network needs a lot of money to raise the technical parameters of the existing network, and where is the most needed, we have to maybe particularly to build the new connections between the cities, like for example Levice, Kozárovce, Zvolen, and so on, for maybe speed 160, 180. I don't know what will be the answer, but to build the new high-speed lines between big cities in Slovakia, I think that is very optimistic for the moment.
Mr. Karai, if I may just ask one question. You've mentioned the question of cost, and we've already talked about the high-speed railway between Czech Republic and Hungary will be financed via Connecting Europe facility. But I believe this facility or this program of the European Union it was meant to expire in 2020. So this year, what steps did you take so we don't lose the money for this investment?
Well, maybe that's the question more on me as deputy of the ministry. Okay, so European funding programs usually work in 7-year periods. The current period, 2014-2020, is about the end for sure. But there are 3 years for completion of the current projects, and each program is replaced with a new program. So now we are preparing a new program for the period 21-28 with all the strategic development documents and another pipeline of projects for new funding period, in which let's say second stage of projects of current projects may appear, the new projects will appear again. So it's a continuing process. That's not a big deal. We have maybe some difficulties to spend all the money within the period, but I believe that within the 3-year span that we have for completion of the running projects, we will manage to absorb all the money that we have available.
Mr. Martinček, would you like to respond?
Yeah, I would like something added. Regarding the OECD statistics, we are investing to the highways against to railways 9 times more than to railways. Yeah. So that questions where we put the money for previous European donation, we put them to the highways. We do not put them to the railways. That is answer for for your question. And again, I would issue some figures from those World Bank analyses for high-speed lines, where they comparing the building costs for 350, for 250, and less than 200. And there was average price for less than 200 is somewhere 14 million euro. 14 million euro per kilometer. For 250 is somewhere between 16 million euro per kilometer, and for 350 is somewhere between 19 to 20 million euro per kilometer. Yeah, but I have to mention this is the prices in the China. Yeah, and according this analysis, they're saying that in Europe we have to calculate more, something 30% more, because of our industry level. Yeah, so this is the approximately the prices. This is the approximately idea how much and how much we need, what will be cost, where is the value for money, and so on and so on. Because as you mentioned, we have foundation from the EU, and we are still not investing properly, by my opinion, but sometimes we are wasting, not investing. So that's I'm wanted to explain this, the some kind of figures, because the figures are showing us the correct position what we are now. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Martinček, your point on the speed of the railways, you mentioned it several times. I wanted to ask for opinion from Mr. Čech. Mr. Čech, what was the deciding factor on what speed you are building your railway system?
Concerning new lines, it is about target speed 300 kilometers per hour. We plan possibility to use French standards, technical standards of SNCF, and I would like to confirm that concerning new lines, it is not significant difference between price concerning line for example 250 and 300. In our planning, we use approximately 400 million crowns per kilometer in flat area. It is about 16 millions of euros per kilometer. And this price is doubled in area with some bridges, and it's doubled in the case of tunnels approximately. It's about some concrete data. Concerning future financing, it is very important for us to put our future high-speed network to core network 10T. It is very significant step for future possibility of co-financing this project from CEF, Connecting Europe facility funds. Concerning high speed, it is maybe more important to fulfill travel time than have this for this decision based on speed. For target to fulfill travel time between Praha and Brno 1 hour is necessary to introduce speed 300 kilometers per hour. In the case of 200 kilometers 50, it is not possible to fulfill this target time. And from commercial point of view, and for, as we have discussed, from point of view of commuting, 1 hour is very important time for commuting people. If it is about possibility to travel to office less than 1 hour, it is very big potential, very more significant potential than in case that if you travel, for example, half an hour. We see now positive result from our modernization of our network. In the case of, for example, traveling Pardubice Praha, it is about 1 hour now, less than 1 hour now. it is about maybe more than doubled people that are commuting every day between Praha and Pardubice than, for example, 10 years ago. In this moment, we have very significant increase of passengers in south axis between Praha and Tábor, because now it is about approximately 1 hour travel time, and for future it will be less than 1 hour. And we have established train every half hour, and the trains are totally full. Yeah, this travel time hour is very magic time for future.
Mr. Sirot, as we're coming to the end of our discussion, you've heard a lot about the situation in Slovakia and Czech Republic and the V4 region. How would you rate our situation here in this region, and perhaps what would be your recommendations on what to focus on in the future?
So from what you've been talking about, there's obviously a very positive outlook for the rail network. There's lots of increase in demand, lots of increase in passenger numbers, and therefore there's a need to increase the capacity of the networks. And the question is how you do that with a constrained budget. And I think financing of infrastructure has always been problematic as to how do we get those contributions from those people who benefit from the rail network. And so the question for me is really, is there potential for bringing in private sector money to pay for some of the infrastructure? So, for example, we've seen in various countries around the world, the private sector coming in and building railway stations. And they're building developments on top of those stations. That's principally where they make their revenue from, but also obviously charges for passengers using that station. And therefore, you're reducing some of the upfront costs to the rail infrastructure companies providing that infrastructure. We've seen also in the United Kingdom that when High Speed 1, which is the link between London and the Channel Tunnel and onto the continent, was built, that has now been sold to the private sector under a long lease, and it's been bought by a pension fund because you've got a very steady income stream coming in because of people now know how many people are using that rail network. So you've taken out the risk, which is often where the premium comes from private sector funding, but it's a way of introducing private sector money back into the rail infrastructure network to help pay for future infrastructure. So I think these are the challenges that need to be looked at. How do you bring in private sector money? How do you make the beneficiaries of the rail network actually make a contribution? And it's interesting, obviously the situation is very different, but in Australia, a private sector developer has approached the government to say, look, if you give us the right to develop properties in a particular location, and again, they're talking about high-speed rail, which is 200 kilometers an hour, effectively will build a new town to support a new high-speed rail link into Sydney, which would provide benefits to the wider area as well, not just to the new town that they're building. But it's looking at how do you capture, if possible, those private sector investment and development monies to help pay for the infrastructure that is so desperately needed. And we sort of mentioned it at the very beginning, but we obviously do have a climate emergency. How do we tackle climate change? We're looking at decarbonizing transport networks. In some ways, that's relatively easy on car side, moving to electric cars, although there are other issues around that. But for moving freight, it is very difficult to decarbonize road freight. And we do have quite a lot of long distance road freight in Europe. Again, by providing that additional capacity, moving passenger trains off the existing network onto new faster rail links frees up more capacity for freight and to move freight by rail in the future. And sort of linked into that, can you then start capturing some of the income from road networks? So we do have a network of toll roads across Europe, but often that money goes either to the private sector investor who built the road or to central government funds. Can we actually have a better pot of money generated from the transport network? So tolls on the road network go to providing capacity relief across the transport network, and that capacity relief is actually building new transport rail infrastructure. So it is looking at these various ways, rather than looking at it by rail, motorways, as the point was made earlier about funding has principally gone into the road network in recent years. Can we look at transport as a whole look at what the issues are that we're facing in terms of increased demand, increased congestion, increased emissions, and the climate change emergency, and actually come up with a solution which is much more sustainable for the long term and provides that value for money that's been mentioned a few times as well.
Thank you, Mr. Sirot. I would like to slowly end the discussion with a question from Slido. Would you say, and we can start with Mr. Loss, and then perhaps all our guests would contribute with their answer. Mr. Loss, would you say that Slovakia is prepared for green transport and the alternative means for transport? Is Slovakia thinking green?
Well, I would say that Slovakia is definitely thinking green. What was, let's say, mentioned within the discussion, that for the moment we are more investing in motorways than in compared to the railways, is maybe not completely true. The total volume of money is about the same. One thing is the infrastructure, the other is the vehicle stock, etc. Of course, for the moment, the priority was more given for, I mean, the priority as within population was more given to the development of motorway network, but this is definitely going to be changed. And also all the financing programs are switched into support of more environmentally friendly modes in future. So definitely yes.
Karaj, would you say that Slovakia is thinking green?
Thank you for the question, but I agree with Mr. Loss, but I try to answer this question in another way, my point of view. I think that if Slovakia is thinking green, I think that this is the answer is that the answer have the people, because if country thinks green, this is all about the people, because you have a very good opportunities for mobility, for transport, and so on. The government, the institutions made and prepared the chance for inhabitants in country to behavior green, but it's all about the people. But my answer is that nowadays the Slovakia is 50-50 from my point of view.
Okay. Mr. Martinček, your point of view?
Actually, we thinking, speaking, but not doing. That's my answer.
Okay. Mr. Sirot, what do you consider really thinking green in transport? And do you think that Slovakia is on the right way?
I think I would agree with Mr. Martinček. I think there was a lot of talk, but very little action in terms of going green. We see throughout Europe huge investments in road infrastructure to cope with additional road traffic. We see relatively little investment going into more sustainable modes of transport, which I mean sort of cycling and walking. So our countries are set up to support a lot of travel. We need to reduce that travel considerably, and we need to make that travel in much more sustainable ways. So we talk a good talk, but there's a long way to go before we actually put what we're saying into action.
Okay, and Mr. Čech, I believe that, I won't burden you with asking if do you think Slovakia is thinking green, but what about Czech Republic? What's the situation with green transport in Czech Republic?
Yeah, we have started with the way for possibility to move freight from road to railway, but we have not capacity on existing line for it, and it's a reason of our ideas for building new high-speed lines. We are on the beginning, but it's necessary to make a lot of very expensive steps for possibility to move and to fulfill this target. On existing conventional line, we are maybe in good direction because we invest a lot of money to existing networks. Yeah, we have now for investments this year approximately 40 billion crowns from national resources. It's very high level of money. Yeah, it's maybe record money. Yeah, and I will be happy that the same situation will be in future in Slovakia, because I travel a lot of time to Slovakia, and I know that, for example, your railway line between Žilina and Košice is not in good condition. Yeah, you have a lot of sections with very slow speed. The same situation is between Bratislava and Banská Bystrica. It's nothing opposite to you, but I hope the situation in Slovakia will be better for future, and we will possibility to establish very good green area in our region, because Slovakia is very important partner for us in this way. I'm sorry if my words was too not too correct, but it's necessary to say. Thanks.
No, I think it was a great summary. I think you've pointed out perfectly that we are at the beginning of many routes towards better transport in Europe, towards greener thinking, and well, let's hope that as soon as possible we'll be able to travel with our new high-speed railway, for example, from Bratislava to Prague. Dear guests, I believe our time is running out, so I have to thank you for this discussion. I hope it was as valuable for you as it was, I believe, for me and for all our viewers. I would like to thank our guest speakers today, Karol Martinček, Vice Chairman of the Board and General Manager of the commercial section of Railway Company Slovakia. Thank you, Mr. Martinček. Miroslav Garaj from the Strategy and Public Relations section of Railways of the Slovak Republic. Thank you, Mr. Garaj.
Thank you.
Peter Los from Slovak Ministry of Transportation. Thank you, Mr. Los.
Thank you and goodbye.
Also, a great thanks to our speakers that were connecting online from abroad. Mr. John Sirot, Director of Economics and Global Technology, Lead Transport Economics, Jacobs.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. And also great thanks to Mr. Radek Čech, General Manager of the International Relations section of Railway Management of the Czech Republic.
Thank you very much.
Again, thank you. We will see you at Virtual.techsummit Volume 4 in the next discussion panel starting in 15 minutes. And the recording of this discussion will be made available on YouTube or as a podcast. Also, the results of this discussion will be sent to all the relevant stakeholders in the transport. And also there will be a press release issued with the results of this discussion. Dear viewers, thank you very much again for spending time with us.
Hustota železničnej siete Slovenskej republiky má dostatočný potenciál na vytvorenie kostry systému verejnej dopravy. Rozhodujúcou je však kvalita a dostupnosť ponúkaných služieb infraštruktúry. Investíciami do železničnej siete a modernizácie vozového parku dosiahneme synergický efekt v zabezpečení mobility pre Slovenskú republiku. Dokážeme zdvojnásobiť dopravný a prepravný výkon bez nárastu počtu využívaných vozidiel a tak prepraviť viac ako 150 miliónov ľudí ročne. Docielime efektívne a ekologické spojenie významných ekonomických centier pri nastavení pravidelných taktových spojení v rámci regiónov. Priemerná cestovná rýchlosť vlakov v diaľkovej doprave sa zvýši z aktuálnych 68 km za hodinu na rýchlosť 140 km za hodinu. V regionálnej doprave dosiahne priemerná cestovná rýchlosť až 70 km za hodinu. Denne by sme tak mohli vypraviť takmer 3500 vlakov, ktoré prejdú viac než 182 000 kilometrov. Obyvateľom umožníme dochádzať za prácou bez nutnosti sťahovania sa zo svojich domovov a doprava medzi vzdialenými časťami Slovenska bude rýchlejšia, pohodlnejšia, ekologická a efektívnejšia. Železnica sa tak znovu stane strategickou súčasťou rastu mobility s pozitívnym vplyvom na slovenskú ekonomiku a znižovanie emisií v doprave. Železničná spoločnosť Slovensko, národný dopravca.